Hey everyone, this is Helena and welcome to my live stream today with Jonathon Aslay. I'm so excited. Welcome, Jonathon.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here.
For those of you who don't know Jonathon, you are in for such a treat today. He is actually America's leading midlife dating and relationship expert. And he's also a very, very good friend of mine in real life. But because of everything that's going on right now, we're doing this live stream remotely. But I'm so excited to introduce him to my audience for the very first time. You're going to absolutely love what he has to say. We're going to be talking about 5 steps to get a man to open up to you, even if he has an avoidant attachment style. We're going to go into the attachment styles in just a minute here, but we were chatting just before we started recording, and I think this should be helpful really no matter where you're at in dating and relationships. Right, Jonathon?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm going to give you so much content, it's going to overwhelm you, but in a good way.
Okay, yes, I love it. We just have about an hour or so too. So if you guys have questions, let us know in the live chat. I'm going to actually pull those up right now. And let us know where you're watching from. Hi, Anna Marie. Thank you so much. I don't know if you can see the comments, Jonathon, but if I see a good question, I'll pop it on the screen. So
click on live comments.
Yeah, you don't really have to worry about it. I can handle all of that. So hi to Laura Lou and Aliyah watching from Houston, Texas. Thank you guys so much. We're just waiting for a couple people to join. But let's just dive right in. Jonathon, what's the first thing you have to say? Do you want to kind of go over the different attachment styles? I think that would be really helpful for people watching.
Yeah, I think it's really important for, here's the thing. What's fascinating to me is the average person's what I call relationship IQ is actually rather naive. And what I mean to say is from a dating and relationship perspective, I think most of us have been raised to think that it should be relatively easy. If you have great chemistry with someone and you really click with another person and you fall in love, everything should magically work out. And yet I always say the bodies are piled from here to the moon for people that were naive when it came to dating and relationship, hence why there's professions like yours and mine out there. And I particularly mostly work with midlife folks, which I call after baby making years and before retirement. So, but lately, what's surprising me is I'm getting so many women in their 20s and 30s reaching out to me for help. And I love it because if I can help someone in their 20s and 30s, great. But I do tend to specialize in the over 40 category. And what I mean by relationship IQ is understanding, and I'm going to get to your question about avoidant in a second, is just kind of understanding the mechanics of what it takes to really make a relationship work and understanding why there are so many challenges in the dating and relationship realm. One of them happens to be something called love attachment. And for those watching, if you're not familiar with it, there's a fantastic book. I'm going to put it up on the screen right now. The book is called Attached by Amir Levine.
Yeah.
And it talks about the 3 primary love attachments. And what it is, a love attachment is when we're babies. Basically, this is the Cliff Note version of it. I mean, I'm not the full-blown expert at love attachment, but I have a fair understanding. Is that when we're babies, how we bond and attach to our primary parents. And in some cases, it might not be our biological parents, but it could be surrogate parents. It could be an aunt that takes care of you or a grandparent that takes care of you. So, or it could be a step parent that actually takes care of you. But those early infant stages, when we're in the crib and we're crying, for example, and what we're seeking is love and attention. In this moment, because we're unable to take care of ourselves. Some people scream for love and then someone shows up and then they scream and then someone shows up and scream. You know what I mean? Scream and cry. I don't mean it from a violent perspective. I just mean like you're scared, right? You're a little baby. And so after a while, you become attached to this idea is that if I kind of scream for love and it'll show up. Okay. And the way that manifests itself is kind of in what's called an anxious attachment style. In other words, when you're anxious, you need to be soothed right away. And again, this is the Cliff Note version of it. Whereas there are other instances where the parent doesn't show up. And so then the child becomes less trusting of love in this particular case. And so they become avoidant, most likely. And this is kind of the dynamic that happens when we're babies. And the third attachment style is called secure, meaning you have a basic, it's not like you're going to cry all the time and get attention, but you're able to take care of yourself and you're going to get attention from your primary parents.
Okay, love it. Yes, I love the explanation. Sorry, my cat Leo is just joining us. I don't know if you saw him.
Your cat always shows up for these calls.
He just like clockwork. He thinks it's his job to be a part of this. So yeah, and I'm not an expert in this either. So thank you so much for talking about this. We already have over 100 people watching in the first 5 minutes. Great. So I know this is definitely a very needed topic. Yeah, from my understanding, it's the anxious attachment style person. When they were a baby, they kind of got that intermittent reinforcement from their parents, yes. Right? So if they cried, sometimes their parents would pick them up and soothe them, and sometimes they wouldn't. So they understand the value of that reassurance and that comfort, but they didn't always get it. And that's what that creates this anxious attachment styles. Like sometimes they get it, sometimes they don't. Whereas the avoidant attachment style person really never got it. So they kind of learn that if they have a need, I'm not going to get it met. So they kind of like suppress that. That's my understanding. Do I have that right?
No, you have that exactly right. And going back to just to piggyback on the avoidant, it's suppressing it. So what happens is over a period of time, they begin to suppress their needs. And as this manifests in adulthood, they don't trust their needs, they don't trust their feelings, and they're reluctant to share their feelings. And why this is so pivotal when it comes to men in particular is that we also have something else going on between us men. Now, we're actually, when we're young boys, we're told to stuff our feelings. In other words, we are told to man up, don't show your feelings. You're a wussy, you're a wimp if you show your feelings. So this almost compounds it, especially for that avoidant attachment style. It really causes them to stuff their feelings deep, deep down. Now, I'm going to be candid with your audience. I'm an anxious attachment style. And another word for anxious is needy. I'm very needy when it comes to love. Like I need constant reinforcement. And why I share that with your group is I'm a dating and relationship coach for women. And I mean, I'm not saying all women are needy, but there's I think there's a slightly higher percentage of women who are needy because they haven't been taught to stuff their feelings like men. And so as a coach, what makes me kind of unique is I understand many of my clientele's behavior because I come from that anxious, needy place.
I love that. Yeah, I think a lot of women or anyone, men and women who are kind of drawn to these videos and drawn to this work have that anxious attachment style because they're the ones looking for answers. If the avoidant attachment style people aren't really, they don't, like you said, they're suppressing that need. So they're not searching on the internet for answers. How do I get my partner to open up or meet my needs, right? So most people here can probably totally relate to that. By the way, for those of you joining, we have almost 150 people watching already. The first 8 minutes, so I'm so happy this topic is resonating with anyone. I'll start putting the comments on the screen so you can see too. But Jonathon is so generously offering a totally free 45-minute breakthrough call. And you can click the link in the description right now. If you're watching this live, just close the live chat, click the little upside down arrow next to the title of this video. And it's the very first link. You can apply for a free call with Jonathon. Is there anything you want to say about that? I just want to throw that in there before we continue.
No, normally I do like a 15-minute session as a courtesy, but I'm doing, as a gift to you, I'm offering a 45-minute session just to get a little taste if wanting to work with a male dating coach resonates with you. And again, my YouTube channel, I think, is listed below as well. I only share that as my channel is called Understand Men Now. And the idea is I'm here giving insight from the male perspective. And what I think makes me unique, and I'm tooting my own horn here for a second, but I'm in midlife, I'm divorced, okay? Roughly 75% of singles who are over 45 years old are divorced. So I've been through alimony, child support, visitation rights, family court, custody issues. I've been through the emotional effects of those experiences. And why that's so critically important, especially for this demographic, is both I can speak to a lot of the men who the women might be dating because I've been there on an emotional level. But I also kind of show up as a big uncle for those 20 and 30-year-olds. Like I'm like your big uncle. I'm here to help you avoid the wrong guys and help you attract the right guy. So I
I
kind of
love
cover
that.
both demographics.
That's so great. I've heard you or people referring to you as kind of like the protector of women's hearts all around the world. And I have to say, this is like such an honor. Like 7 years ago when I was like training to do what I do now, I knew about you. I had heard your name and I was like, oh my gosh, Jonathon Aslay. So this is just so great to be able to like offer this to my community. Yeah. It's so generous of you. I love having amazing coaches I totally trust to send my audience to. So yeah, definitely go check that out. And what's the next thing you want to say? Do you want to talk more about the attachment styles? I have a question for you, actually. I've heard that, and we don't want to pathologize the avoidant. At least I don't, because I've heard about 50% of the population is securely attached, 25% is avoidant, 20% is anxious, and then there's that 5% that's disorganized. Obviously that's an approximation, but so we don't want to say there's something wrong with your partner if they have an avoidant attachment style, right? At least that's the way I like to think of it.
So I recognize, by the way, I've talked to Amir Levine, who wrote the book Attached, and I'm not convinced, I'll be candid with you, I'm not convinced 50% of the population is secure.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
I think actually very small percentage of the population is secure.
Really?
Wow. I think we actually are now again, this is anecdotal on my part, so I can't back this up with any statistics, but if you think about it from a perspective of dating, right? You know, the reality of life is these days, if you're actively dating, your chances of having the first date turn into a love connection for the rest of your life is rather rare. In fact, you might have 1, 2, 3, 5, 10, maybe 50, 100 first dates before you meet someone. And oftentimes what's coming up is a couple different factors of why relationships aren't successful. I think part of it is there is a greater percentage of people that are stuck in their love attachment style as the default. Their default might have been anxious or avoidant. And while some of that might have moved into secure category, I think they still have a default somewhere in anxious or avoidant. I think it's rare to have secure right out of the get-go. So I think they become secure after a long period of time, and that's long-term marriages. But for the single demographic, for those who are actively single, I think their default might be anxious or anxious or avoidant, but they're moving towards secure. Does that make sense?
Great. I love that. Actually, I would totally agree with you. So I'm glad you gave your perspective on that. Yeah. And I know it can be a little fluid. You know, I hear from so many women who say, well, in my past relationships, I've been a little avoidant, but with this guy, I'm a little more anxious. So can it shift depending on who you're dealing with here? Yeah,
because what happens is the kind of the law of polarity. If someone's an avoidant, they tend to attract anxious people, and anxious people tend to attract avoidant. I told you earlier, I'm an anxious person. Every relationship I ever had was with an mostly emotionally avoidant personality.
Wow.
So because that's what I gravitate to. Now, I have shifted a long way from being anxious and needy to close to being secure. But I'm not there, even though I'm not to, again, toot my own horn. I feel like I'm pretty highly evolved and everything, but there's still the default there. So that's why a lot of times you mentioned about pathology. It's rare that you're going to meet a guy. Let's go back to avoidance. It's rare that you're going to meet someone who is so knee deep in their avoidant attachment. And it's most likely is that they've suffered significant trauma in childhood that hasn't been healed. Okay. Yeah. So the more traumatic a person's childhood, the more likely they're going to be more repressed in their love attachment style.
Yes, I've heard that. Yeah, and I've heard the avoidant attachment style people, they don't often want to talk about their childhood.
No.
Right.
In fact, in my coaching practice, when I work with clients, I put together a 70-page workbook called Improve Your GPS, which is called Improve Your Guy Picking System, right?
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So, so in my coaching, I put together this workbook to help you kind of navigate it through a lot of different questions. I mean, it's 70 pages long. So by the way, it only takes 15 minutes to read, but or 20 minutes at the most. But to really start to learn how to ask questions in such a way that doesn't turn a guy off. And interesting enough, talking about childhood, you can simply say, hey, so where did you grow up? Oh, you grew up in Pasadena? What was it like growing up in Pasadena? There are some really casual ways to talk about childhood in a very non-confrontational way. So I'll talk more about that in a little bit.
Love it. Okay. Yes.
But,
I love everything you're saying.
So I want to go back to something about relationship IQ, though. I said this earlier, and I think this is hugely important for everyone watching. I know your audience is mostly women. I would love it if men were watching this too. So I hope there are some men here.
There are sometimes, yeah.
So relationship IQ is understanding the true mechanics of a relationship, understanding what it takes to make a relationship work. And so what's interesting, like a lot of people in their 20s and 30s, they're kind of driven by the mindset of, go to college, get a job, meet a guy or girl, get married, buy a house, start a family. There's already a pre-written program in other words, it's basically raising children is the predominant blueprint. But for the demographic that I often speak to, it's not always the case, because you might already have children in your life. You might be looking at blending lives. And a lot of people don't know what it takes to create a relationship because they're coming to the table with some luggage, with life experience. And sometimes that life experience has been very negative. It's been very traumatic. And especially for men who are avoidant personalities, if they or avoidant love attachment style, if they've had several disappointing experiences, it can cause them to even be more repressed in relationship.
Yeah. I know I get questions all the time about, this is great, but what about if he's divorced? He, went through several bad past relationships or marriages, or he has kids, and it can get really complicated. That's why I'm so happy to bring you on, and you can just be the total expert on my channel for any topic related to that.
So I want to say something to your audience, because it is mostly women. So I know women love the idea of that chivalrous guy who, the knight in shining armor. He's going to come over, he's going to come to the table. He's very crystal clear on what he wants. He courts you. He takes the lead and everything. That's kind of a fantasy, because why I'm saying that is both men and women are struggling from an emotional perspective. In fact, I've recognized that the number one emotional health issue facing people, and dating triggers this like nobody else's business, is I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy enough. I'm not lovable.
Yeah.
And while we all covet that attractive, a confident man or woman, the reality is most people are suffering on the inside in some way, shape, or form.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And as I said before, dating triggers this like nobody's business. So ghosting triggers that, that insecurity within us, because we might say, what did I do wrong? Oh, I wish I said something different. Why didn't they like me? I just got abandoned. All this stuff gets triggered. Dating triggers this stuff. It's actually one of the reasons, if it's okay if I share with your audience, I wrote a book called What the Heck is Self-Love Anyway?
Yes. And actually the link to that book's in the description as well, right? So everyone can check that out if you want.
The idea is that self-love is our vehicle for emotional, rebuilding ourselves from the inside out. And another way of looking at self-love would be self-worth, self-esteem, self-confidence. And the journey I take people on the book is to really encourage everyone to begin a personal development, self-help, and spiritual practice, and try to do it on a daily basis. Because when you're doing this inner work, you become more secure. And what I'm about, remember I said about the fantasy that women wished? Okay, so I know ladies love the idea of men taking the lead, but I'm here to say you're giving the job to the wrong person.
Oh, interesting.
Men are terrible at leading the relationship. And it's obvious. They're great at courting you for the first couple weeks or months, once you've been intimate with someone, but they're not really great leaders of relationship, because they don't study relationships nearly as much as women do. Women by far buy more books and study relationships way better than men. So why I'm saying this and why it's so important is, here's the good news. When a guy likes you, you can actually take the lead and he will follow. Men need to be trained, okay? And men love instructions. When you give men instructions of what you like and what makes you happy, we gladly follow if we're into you.
Mm-hmm.
If we're only half into you, it can be problematic. And we're going to talk about how to improve that, getting him into you, because we're going to talk about how to get a guy to open up even if he's avoidant. And these are going to really help. So I just want to say, ladies, that really, it's a lot of times you might get frustrated because you feel like you're doing all the work. But the good news is you've done all the groundwork, and you're going to make it easy for him to follow you. Okay.
I love that you said that, because one comment I get all the time, I think you're kind of speaking to this, is women say, well, why do we have to be the ones to do all the work? It seemed like there's all this advice for us out there. And right. And so do you have anything to say on that? I never know how to.
Oh, I do. So what's fascinating is, do you know Trip Kramer, right?
Uh-huh.
So one of our mutual friends, everyone, is a coach that is a shy guy coach to help guys meet girls. And every week I join his live, and I'm watching these men, and it really saddens me, because the number one frustration for most men is how to meet women. Like they don't know how to even meet women or to communicate with women. So there's a lot of insecurity going on here. So their attention is more about how to meet women, whereas women are more focused is, how do I make the relationship work? So if women buy more books on relationships, then I'm here to say I want to encourage you to be the emotional container of the relationship by leading the process. Now, I know that frustrates a lot of women, because they're going, well, I want the man to lead, but I'm telling you, we're trainable. You just got to tell us which direction to go.
Oh, I love that. I want to just do a whole nother live stream just on that one. Can we
do
another one
that.
just on that? Awesome.
I know
everyone watching.
Friday.
Yeah, next Friday.
How to train your guy right.
Exactly. I know everyone watching is going to want to, let us know in the chat though, but oh my gosh, who doesn't want to learn how to do that, right?
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
So many great questions. I hope you can see them as I put them on the screen. At least
I see them, but I got to put on my glasses.
I know. What do you guys think of the glasses? I like the glasses, but he didn't want to wear them for the whole live stream. But let us know what you guys think about that. Ellie says, wow, that's so true. We all have past issues that get triggered when dating. Someone said they love your term, the GPS. It's a great term. Awesome. So what's the next? Do you want to move into the next phase of this and get started with these 5 steps, or is there anything else?
Five steps. So here's the thing, whether they're avoidant or not, I think it's important to recognize that men are not the enemy. Okay. Now, men are not the enemy. So why I'm saying this is understanding, and here, let me look at my notes. What did I write? Understanding their behavior. Okay. Understanding male behavior and why. Okay. Understanding male behavior, why. When you come from a place of understanding and curiosity about why someone might be an avoidant, or why someone might be reluctant to share their feelings, that understanding, first off, helps you predict their behavior. Because when you come from a place of understanding, you can predict their behavior, and you can make better choices based on predicting behavior. But it also helps you lean into compassion. Because here's the reality. Again, I say this, ladies, I know how much you love the idea of chivalrous men and taking the lead, but we're really bad at the job. And most men are good guys. They're just bad daters.
I love how you said that. That is so true. Yeah.
I have a YouTube video on that. It's called "Most Men Are Good Guys, They're Bad Daters." You can find it on my channel. The idea is that most guys are on, a huge percentage of the population, I'm going to say 95% of people are struggling on the inside. What I said about, I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable, I'm not, worthy. We have huge insecurities when it comes to relationships. So coming from a place of understanding and not being angry that the guy you with might be a little bit avoidant will go a long way to preparing you, as I share the next steps, to lean into how to really get him to open up. So start from a place of understanding.
Love it. I love that. I'm just getting distracted by all these dozens of comments about your
Okay.
glasses over. Like the
Really,
glasses, love the glasses. Glasses are nice. So I like them too.
These are dollar store glasses,
I
I'm embarrassed to say.
I love it. Okay, so glad you said that. And I did want to mention for the over 200 people watching live already, so I'm so glad this topic's resonating with you guys. Make sure to stay till the end of this video because we believe the fifth step that Jonathan's going to share is the most important, and it can be the hardest one to do, at least from my perspective. Right, Jonathan?
Absolutely. This is like I saved the best for last. So please, stay till the end, and certainly take advantage of the offer. I'm making this generous offer for you because I think you're so fantastic, Elena.
Oh,
so definitely take advantage of that for everyone.
Awesome.
Those links.
Yes, Shauna says, thank you. I need to hear that it's okay. Nadia says, I love this topic. Isabel says, I used to be so ever understanding. I didn't understand. I was emotionally abusive. Yeah, I hear about this all the time. So, all right, let's get, someone says dollar store glasses. You guys always make me laugh so hard with your comments. Dollar store glasses. So yeah, let's keep going with this topic. This is really good.
So I want to finish up on understanding because it's also men need to understand women. One of the challenges that men aren't really taught to kind of understand women. I mean, we think of it from the dating perspective, be romantic, be chivalrous, get the girl. But I mean, let's go beyond that. Most men haven't learned how to help a woman become safe. It doesn't mean they're not capable of it. I have witnessed so many men that are just bad at the process. But when they're with a woman who does this, like what I said, lead in such a way that makes him feel safe, they lean into understanding so much more.
So true.
And yeah. I know, and let me just say this, I know a lot of ladies have had bad experiences. I mean, very hurtful, traumatic, bad experiences. I just want to say one thing, don't let the bad apples spoil the majority of men who I said are good guys. They're just bad daters.
So true. Yeah. Don't let the person that didn't love you keep you from the one who will, right? I see that. So tragic, someone gets hurt and then they just take that experience and they use it as an excuse to never, even open themselves up to what they truly want. So I'm really glad you said that.
No, in fact, I've gone on dates where I could literally see, I'm sitting across from someone at the table and I can literally see every man that's ever hurt her standing right behind her.
Wow.
Not through her words, right? Because it's her words that are expressing this. And I'm going to give a tip on this in a little bit on how to navigate that in a much better way.
That sounds great. Yeah, it's something I always say. Men are so sensitive to this vibe you give off, right? So if you're shut down, if you're closed off or not open, he's going to be able to feel that, even if you're not saying a word, right? So I love it.
Okay, I think we should go to tip number two.
Yes,
okay.
Let's do it.
Tip number two. If for those of you that are familiar with this, I'm gonna add a lot to this, but I highly recommend everybody learning about what's called the 5 love languages. The 5 love languages, and everyone, there's a great book. I'm all about props. Here's the book, The 5 Love Languages, the singles edition.
Okay.
The 5 love languages. If you're not familiar, go Google it. And if you are, it's words of affirmation. I call it words of adoration because I'm a Leo.
Words of Leo too. That's so funny.
I like to be adored, so I like my main stuff. So it's words of adoration, but it's words of affirmation for words. Quality time, physical touch, acts of service, and gifts. And so let me repeat that really quickly for everyone. Words, quality time, physical touch, acts of service, and gifts. And why this is so hugely important is Gary Chapman, when he wrote the book, recognized that we all speak in a certain language when it comes to love. And one of the things that women desire most is closeness in relationship. Closeness that oftentimes helps them feel close is the words, when someone is actually using words to describe how they feel. But here's the interesting thing. Not everybody is a words. In fact, I don't know what percentage is words in relationship to this, but men tend to be more physical touch and acts of service. And women tend to be more words and quality time. They're words, quality time, touch, But well, touch is for everyone.
Yeah, I'm a touch for sure. And then a distant second and words of affirmation. Yeah, I was just talking about that last night. It's so funny. Yeah.
So here's the great news. If you're dating a guy, I highly recommend in the early stages of dating is that you can go online to this thing, Gary Chapman's website called the 5 Love Languages, and you can take a test. It only takes 7.5 minutes to do the online test. And I highly recommend you do it and the guy you're dating do it. And if for those of you that are concerned about the guys who may not do it, well, here's the deal. Oh, by the way, am I allowed to be graphic here?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. If he wants that penis in your vagina, he's got to take the test. Okay.
Wow.
It's real simple. If he wants this penis in the vagina, here's my recommendation. Take the online test. It takes 8 minutes. But the benefit of taking the test is that you can learn his love language, because one of the things is to help a man get to open up is when you're actually speaking his love language and you're leaning into it, and you're both communicating, like you're both learning about love languages, it helps him feel safer when you find out what his love language is, and then you begin to communicate with him in his language. Because that's how he's going to be able to open up and feel safe, because you're speaking to him, not speaking words, but you're connecting at the language that he resonates with more so. And it might be because you guys have different love languages. I hope that made sense what I just said.
Yeah, totally makes sense. Totally makes sense.
I hope you didn't mind my graphic illustration.
I've kind of heard it all on these live streams before. And so all good. Can you, before we go on to the next one, can you recap the first one? Betty missed the first tip, she said.
Okay. First tip is understanding male behavior and managing your expectations. Because when you come from a place of understanding that men are just as scared as women. Mm-hmm. Men have insecurities just as much as women. So a lot of times some women are setting up such high expectations of men that we're going to continually fail. Mm-hmm. So by managing your expectations from a compassionate place and saying most men are good guys, they're just bad daters, I think is going to go a long way in helping him feel safe to be able to open up.
Got it. Do you have anything else to say on the love languages, or do you want to go to tip number 3? I know we are about halfway through our time.
Yeah, I know. I was just looking at the clock. So yeah.
Okay.
All right. So the love languages, what else do I want to say? Well, I think it's kind of self-explanatory, but the idea is just to recognize, and by the way, once you do this test together, it's a fun activity to do together. Mm-hmm. And when you learn each other's love languages, you can start playing in that realm, because it becomes a part of your relationship. You're actually introducing relationship IQ when you take these tests and do it together, kind of thing.
Got it. Yes. Okay. When I'm looking over here, I'm just looking through the comments. It's kind of like a multitasking thing.
Got it.
Let's move on to
number 3.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 3. This kind of piggybacks what I was saying earlier, but lead by example. In other words, here's the thing about avoidant people. They struggle. I mean, remember we were talking about their needs. They're really afraid to share their needs. It's learning to lead by example. But what I want to lean into, because I'm going to talk about another step regarding lead by example, but it's more about emotional maturity. Lead by example in the area of emotional maturity. So I've come up with 5 key areas for emotional maturity, which I think your audience will appreciate.
Okay, yeah.
And this is for both men and women, but I'm encouraging all women to lead by example here. And because you want that high quality man who's also emotionally mature. So number 1, actions match your words. Your actions match your words. It's kind of interesting. I had a woman reach out to schedule a coaching session with me, like an introductory call. And I sent her a couple of emails ahead of time to get she didn't respond to my questions. She didn't make the telephone call. And I could see that she was online. So my point in bringing up is she wanted something, but her actions didn't match her words. Mm-hmm. It's so important, actions matching words. And while we're always going to have situations where we might not, we're looking for consistency, because lead by example, because your word, the book, The 4 Agreements, one of the agreements is be impeccable with your word. Yeah. I highly encourage, that's a level of emotional maturity. Number 2 on emotional maturity is take personal responsibility for your choices. remember I said earlier I could recognize that woman who is, had been wounded by every date she ever had?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's because she didn't take ownership in her part in any of those choices. So when we lead by example and we step in with victor consciousness, in other words, victor consciousness, not victim consciousness, I can tell you, and by the way, this is true of men, what I'm about to say with women, but sadly, when we complain, oftentimes we're coming across as a victim. And that's almost victim when we're complaining about past relationships. So emotionally mature person says, hey, look, I made a bad choice. I take ownership in my part. They had their part. Okay. And by the way, I know, ladies, you've been hurt by a lot of guys in many cases. So I get
I was
that.
going to say that these 5 things I can already see certainly go both ways. You want to be looking for someone who has these qualities as well, right?
Yes. Oh my God. The worst thing is to date a guy who's all he's doing is complaining about his ex. His actions don't match his words, and the couple things I'm about to share next. So this goes absolutely both ways, but I'm encouraging women to learn these 5 keys to emotional maturity, because this helps a man feel safe, that avoidant man feel safe. Number 3 on the list is fighting fair. I call it fighting fair, but what I mean is learning what's called conflict resolution skills. Most people, when they are in a relationship, you're going to have conflicts. So learning how to resolve conflicts in a healthy way is a huge factor for relationship success. And if, again, I'm here with props. So if anyone's not familiar with the book, Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg. Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg.
Great one. This someone was asking real quick, the name of the test was the love languages test. Can you hold that one back up too?
Okay, that one is the 5 love languages. 5 love languages. And you can go online to look this up, Gary Chapman. So nonviolent communication. By the way, Helena, I wish they called it, the title sucks. It shouldn't have been called nonviolent. It should have been called compassionate communication.
Oh yeah, I like that.
But the reason why it's called nonviolent is oftentimes women as well as men are very confrontational when they want their needs met. They come up very confrontational, and that's a quick route to turning a guy off. And certainly men can be confrontational as well, and it can turn a woman off. So I encourage reading these books, and again, getting the guy to read these books too. So here's the thing. If you want to have sex with me, you got to read these books is the rule.
I've never heard anyone say that before, and I love hearing that from a male perspective.
I think ladies, you shouldn't be giving up the, as what's his name? The guy who's Harvey, what's his name?
Harvey.
Steve Harvey. If you're going to give up the cookie, then make him do the work.
That is so funny. Oh my gosh. I'm like trying not to laugh too hard over here. By the way, so Marianne, if you want, everyone's asking the link, close the live chat. So close the live chat, open up the description of this video. It's the first link. It's also in the comment section too. So you can just close everything, scroll down to the comments. If you can't find it, get in touch with me. I'll send it to you personally.
And also check out my YouTube channel.
All the links are in there. Your YouTube channel, your podcast, your book, everything's in there right now. You guys can go check it out.
Okay. So the 4th sign of emotional maturity is empathy. And what I'm really leaning in here, and this is for men and women, so I mean this clearly, this is both for men and women. Women tend to be empathetic anyway. They tend to be more empathetic. They tend to care about feelings. But if you're choosing a guy to be in a relationship with, I think it's highly important that at least he understands your feelings, understanding that your feelings are important to you, that they matter. And if someone ever dismisses your feelings, or if you dismiss another person's feelings, then you're not stepping into real emotional maturity. Because as I said before, most of us are wounded. We're on, we have childhood wounds or traumas, and we're riddled with insecurities. I mean, look I'm a pretty confident guy, but there isn't a day go by that I'm not afraid of something, and I have my own fears of not being liked and not being, abandonment and all that kind of stuff. So we all have it. But empathy says, I'm going to understand how you feel, and I'm going to accept your feelings.
Yeah, so important. So important to be looking out for that too, because right? Yeah, this is great. Someone's asking, are there cultural differences here? I would imagine this applies really to all men everywhere, but have you noticed? differences here?
Certainly, yeah, absolutely. I mean, for the most part, I'll be generalizing here. I'm speaking to a predominant white population, but I will say in many cultures, Asian cultures, they're very repressed in their feelings, or can be. I've observed that. A lot of Middle Eastern cultures, here in the United States, um, and by the way, here in the United States, we tend to be more expressive but a lot of other cultures, they are taught really to keep their emotions, and they're supposed to keep confident, that sort of thing. So yeah, there can be some cultural differences.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I know I get questions like that all the time. So I just wanted to include that one.
Yeah.
Okay. Are we ready for the next step here?
Yes. The fifth step of emotional maturity. Maturity now is transparency. And what I mean by transparency in the dating process and the relationship process, it's about being open to sharing. In other words, if someone asks you a legitimate question, a fair question, be open and transparent and share it. Now, well, here's the thing. A lot of people, now I want to differentiate between, if it's brand new and you don't feel safe with someone, it may take time to share something very personal and intimate. Okay. In fact, if it's secret, I understand why someone may not be ready to share something. But I'm talking about things like, hey, where did you grow up? Tell me about your family and things like that. If people are avoiding questions, or then they turn it around and make that question kind of your fault, which you know what I'm talking about, right? In other words, they turn it around or they become defensive. Emotional maturity is about transparency. It's about saying, you know what, my life is almost an open book and I'm willing to share it with you because I want us to have that kind of relationship. Look at my parents were married 66 years before my mother passed away, and they were best friends with each other. Every relationship should feel like your best friends. And the reality is, if they feel like your best friend, I'm not saying they are your best friend, but they feel like that. You should feel safe enough to share almost anything with them, because transparency builds, through transparency and familiarity, we build trust and a foundation to be able to open up in any circumstance.
You guys know I talk about all the time. I guess the word I use is authenticity, but I love transparency too. Amazing. Love that. Okay. So those are the 5 on that step.
And lead by example is what I'm saying. So if you want a high quality man, you want that man. That's, we talk about the high quality man. To me, high quality just merely means they're an emotional grown up. Okay. In other words, they have some relationship IQ and they want to invest in building a relationship. And by the way, let me be clear about something. There's a big percentage of the population that they're only capable of a casual relationship. I'm only about talking about people that want to be in partnership with another person. My whole coaching platform is centered around how do you get to partnership? Because in my world, dating has one purpose: to get in a relationship. And relationships have one purpose, and that's to be in partnership with one another. I don't like to talk about casual relationships or transactional relationships. And many people, that's all they're capable of, both men and women. So you'll kind of get a sense. I'm a little Puritan. I like to talk about marriage. I like to talk about partnership.
I love that. I mean, for the 225 people watching live right now, what are you guys? I mean, I imagine that's what you guys are looking for, right? If you're giving up your time to be here and learn about this stuff, I imagine that you're looking for that true partnership, right? Not just a casual thing. So fantastic.
Okay.
Yes.
Now the fourth step
for
get a man open up is to make small requests. Oftentimes where the struggle is getting someone to open up is like it's coming out of the blue and it's a big gigantic request. So making small requests to lean into communicating their feelings, because what you're really asking for is closeness. Because remember I said earlier, women are thirsty for closeness, and when you're with an emotionally avoidant, they tend to be distant from you. And when you're with an anxious person, they're smothering you, they're smothering you with too much closeness, right? Make small requests of what you want in a relationship. In fact, this is another aspect of boundaries, but I love the way Brene Brown talks about boundaries. She says, what's okay and what's not okay for me. So start making requests for what you want, but really make them small, make them non-confrontational. That's why reading these books that I'm recommending helps in your requests of what your needs are. And everybody's needs are different. So, learn how to just make it in small doses, because the more you do it in small doses by expressing your feelings in a very non-confrontational way and do it in small doses, he's going to feel safer to open up in the long run.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, you guys are reading my mind. Okay. Paula asks, can you give me an example of that? I think that's great. Yeah. Or as many.
Okay. What did I write down? Did I make a note of trying to think of a good example? So, well, let's talk about, well, I'm going to use an example when it comes to sex. Okay. Like a lot of times people struggle even talking about monogamy and exclusivity.
Yeah.
Okay. So I like to talk about it in this way, especially if you're in those early stages of dating. It's the first, second, or third date. You might say something like this. You might just say, if the topic of sex comes up, because sex is a part of a relationship. Let's be clear about this. It's it's on our brains 24/7. So even though we probably only spend 10% of the relationship in the bedroom, it occupies 90% of our minds. So at least us men. So when it comes to monogamy and exclusivity, I like to recommend my clients do this. You simply say, you're talking about relationships. Say, hey, when I'm intimate with a man, I tend to be monogamous. In other words, I don't like to sleep with multiple men at the same time. I'm very monogamous when I'm intimate with a man, sexually intimate. And if we're going to continue to be intimate together, I'm exclusive. Okay? I tend to be exclusive. And you simply say, how do you operate? Okay, that's a small request. The request is asking a question. How do you operate? Allow him to share what his feelings are. Now, here's the tricky part about men. The word commitment scares men off. Okay, oftentimes. So a lot of times women are told that you should be in a committed relationship to have sex. I think it's just better to agree on monogamy, and if you're going to be regular sex, exclusivity, because those are, even though they're big words, it's not the big word commitment, because sometimes commitment feels like this when monogamy and exclusivity is around here. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and also people have different definitions. Commitment can mean something very different to him as it does to you. So I like that. Super straightforward.
So it's a very simple request to share what you want in a non-confrontational way.
Yeah, great. So that was helpful. Paula says, great example. Thank you. Nadia has a question about this. She says, what if you want him to spend more time with you while in a relationship, not just dating? Would that fall into this category of making a small request?
Yeah, just simply, yes. And let me say something. I'm very shocked at women. Okay, Helena, please forgive me because I'm shocked. I'm shocked is how many times women come to me for coaching, and they have a simple, easy request of the guy, and when I tell them what to say, it's as simple as easy as what they're asking me. It's just having the courage to say, because here's the bottom line. And I wrote this in my book, What the Heck is Self-Love Anyway? Okay. Chapter 1 is speak your truth, do it with kindness. And your truth is simply your feelings. Speak your truth, do it with kindness. But here's the thing. You can never, if it's sincere and from the heart, in other words, if you're telling a man something and it's sincere and from your heart, it's coming from a compassionate place, you can never say the wrong thing to the right guy.
I totally agree. Yeah.
If you're afraid of scaring a guy away, you're in the wrong relationship.
Yes.
Because yes, you will scare away the wrong guy. But if you're trying to hold on to the wrong guy, I'm here to say it's going to blow up later on down the road, because the right guy will appreciate your feelings. It may need to take time to feel safe. That's why I said practice some of the other tips I'm talking about. But don't ever shy away from sharing your feelings, ladies. I wish I could just give you all a big hug and say, it is absolutely okay to share your feelings. Now, here's the challenge. Sometimes women vomit their feelings, okay? I like the way Alison Armstrong calls it. Sometimes you need the basket, because sometimes women vomit. In other words, they say 10,000 words to every man who only says 2,000 words.
Yeah.
So if you want to share something with a guy, keep it short and sweet. We work best when it's really short and sweet, because you don't need to give us the backstory. Just tell us what you want. And if we care about you, we're going to want to meet your needs.
Totally agree. I just released a whole interview just on that, like last week, I believe. So Paula says, say what you mean what you say without saying it mean. Love that. This is great. I love that you really encourage this. This whole walking on eggshells vibe is not going to help you at all. So I really like that. Real direct, straightforward communication. Everything you're saying is so right on. I love it.
If I can encourage every woman just one thing, okay? Every woman, you know, there's so much I teach in coaching, right? But if it's one thing, speak up. Don't stuff your feelings.
Yeah.
Because for fear of scaring someone away. Okay?
So true. Yeah.
Don't ever be afraid to share your feelings. Your feelings matter. Okay. Your requests are important. And in a healthy relationship, it's going to be of value. And if for those who are not familiar with the book, again, I have one more prop. I have maybe another one. 8 Dates by Dr. John Gottman.
Love
8 Dates by Dr. John Gottman. When I talk about relationship IQ, John Gottman has identified the 8 most important areas of a relationship. And this is where someone like a coach like myself and others who we study relationships, we study what it takes to create a successful relationship. When you understand the mechanics of a healthy, happy relationship, you are so better prepared to be in one, especially when you add that emotional maturity and you add the love languages and understanding and leading by example and all these things. You're going to be rocking it. You're like becoming a magnetic attractor for an awesome, high quality guy.
Yeah, totally agree. Similar related question from Jessica. She says, I've been holding back. How do I share my feelings and let him know I care? Any tips there?
Well, I think in the book, Nonviolent Communication, I want to, here, hold on, I got another prop. Ladies, here is a list of feelings, okay? I don't know if you can see it, okay? Here is a list of over 100 different feelings. When it comes to sharing your feelings, first identify what you're feeling. A lot of times people are talking about their feelings from here and not from here, from what they're actually feeling. Is it sadness? Is it disappointment? Is it frustration? Is it joy? Is it confusion? Is it anxiety? When it comes to sharing your feelings, start by identifying what is the feeling that you have. So I feel really sad that you don't seem to want to get together on the weekends, and it would make me really happy because that's something I want in any relationship I'm in. You see how I did that very non-confrontationally?
Yeah.
I'm feeling sad. By the way, men don't like it. When we care about you, the last thing we want is you sad. We want you happy because when you're happy, we're happy. Okay. And I know a lot of men don't seem to appreciate your feelings, but it's partly because in the past, women tend to share their feelings from a confrontational way. There's an old saying, hell hath no fury, right? There's a reason that there's an old saying like that, because oftentimes when a woman's is unhappy, she comes at a man very confrontational. Yeah. And so, now I'm not saying all women, I'm generalizing here. And by the way, ladies, I get men have given you reason to be that way. So let's be clear. Yeah. We're going future. We're going forward, okay? We're not going past. So I hope that was a way to help.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you can see these. Everyone's saying that's so helpful, spot on. Denise just downloaded your book. Awesome. Yes, everyone go get Jonathan's book. Yeah. You can get it on Amazon, right?
Yeah, Amazon.
Yeah, what's it called again? Do you want to hold that one up? So
what the heck is self-love anyway?
Yes, we have some great questions too. So I want to leave some time to
I can go over an hour by
Okay, good. I had a feeling you would say that, but I wanted to just so
we got number 5 to lean into in a minute.
Yeah, do you want to just let's get through the rest of these steps and then we'll take questions at the end. How about that?
Okay, absolutely. So the fifth step. By the way, I wear a ring on my right hand here. I want to share with everyone because it's not this hand, right? I'm single looking for love, but I met a woman who wrote a book called Ring Shui. And she says, if you want to attract love in your life, wear a ring on the opposite hand of your marriage hand. and that will attract in love in your life. So
I love that.
That's why I wear this there.
I know everything's backwards here. Whenever I mess with my microphone, I'm always like putting my hand in the everything's backwards. It's so hard to like watch ourselves backwards.
I can attract love in my life. So.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And so, yeah, for the close to almost 300 people watching live, this is amazing. Any questions you have, type them into the chat. We'll get to as many as we can after the fifth step.
Okay, so the fifth step, the 5, is what did I write down?
You have to put your glasses on again to see it.
Because I freeform talk, so sometimes I'm all over the map. Patience and acceptance.
Yeah.
One of the things about avoidant men in particular is the recognition that maybe on an emotional level, you're here. Wait, I'm going to, for the camera, you're here and he's maybe here. And oftentimes that space in between is called drama. And it's reason why I call drama is you're wanting the guy to be here right away. And the steps I've just shared with you is an understanding. It's like planting a seed out in your garden. When you plant a seed, you water it. And it takes time for that seed to grow and to germinate into, or not germinate, but to grow and start to sprout those roots and to grow. So if you're here and he's here and you're like, you want him here really fast, you're not patient and accepting of where he's at, you're setting yourself up for failure because that's going to drive him away. Now, the challenge with patience is you might be holding out for a guy who's never capable. Okay. And I recognize that there are men not capable, but most likely if they're not capable of being emotionally invested in, we call it emotionally available, but emotionally to be able to express their emotions in a relationship, to open up, chances are they're lacking in the 5 steps I gave on emotional maturity.
Yes.
So a high quality guy who's avoidant is going to open up. Okay. An emotionally mature person is going to open up, but if their actions don't match their word consistently, if they don't take personal responsibility for their choices, if they're acting like a victim, if they don't know how to fight fair. Oh, I didn't spend enough time talking about fighting fair. I think I breezed over it, but the 5th one, fighting fair, means that it's coming at a challenge in the relationship by not who's right, by trying. There's an old saying: do you want to be happy?
Yeah.
Do you want to win or do you want to be happy? And it's about coming to a conflict saying, hey, what you say matters. I'm going to listen to what you say and I'm going to accept what you say. Okay. A good partner doesn't dismiss something you have to say. And confrontational people will. So that's what I'm saying, coming back to that 5th step of patience and acceptance, because a high quality guy just may take a little longer to get to your level, but he'll get there.
Yeah.
He may not get up to here, but he'll get up to here, and that's okay.
Yeah. Love
Did
it.
I make sense, by the way?
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm just going through these. Somebody asked if there's a question that's like real relevant to exactly what we're talking about. I think this one, how can I get him to be more transparent? Any tips there quickly, Jonathon?
How to get him to be more transparent. Well, again, it goes back identify if he's an emotional grown-up, because an emotional grown-up is already standing in transparency. He's already there. But if he's not, again, take leading by example and then little small requests, and recognizing that if it's a sensitive subject, then by the way, I'm a big proponent. If you're going to invest your heart to a man and your body, and I'm going to be graphic, and your vagina, ladies, I'm talking about if sex is part of the equation, you have every right to ask for grown-up communication and relationship. And that's why I recommend, if you're going to buy this book, for example, 8 Dates, you buy 2 copies. Every one of these books, you buy 2 copies, and you give him a copy. You give him a copy of these books, and you do it together, because happy, healthy relationships are built through co-creation. That's why when I said when ladies lead the relationship, it's just you introduce them. If a guy can't lean into this stuff, and this is basic relationship 101, okay? Well, it's really intense, but it's really common sense relationship stuff. Don't be afraid to make requests. to build a healthy, happy relationship. If you want to spend time with me and you want to have sex with me, then this is what I want from you. And if you're not capable of it, then I'm going to go find the guy who is.
Yeah, love it. Carolyn says every guy gets a study course before the relationship starts.
Yeah, I'm a big proponent. You know what?
Yeah.
You're getting the guy. By the way, everyone says don't interrogate a guy on the first date. I'm the opposite. You want to interrogate him. You want the bright light shining. If you, and by the way, I'm being totally tongue-in-cheek here. Okay. But what I mean to say is ask. This is why I wrote my program, Improve Your Guy Picking System. I created a system so you can ask these non-confrontational questions in a way that reveals who he actually is.
Yeah, love it. Here's a question from Shar. You were talking about if you're up here, you're inviting him to come up here to this level. She says, how long do you wait for a man to come up to your level?
So that's a great question. I love that, Shar. So you're here, he's here. He should be making some progress. It might look like this, but he's making progress, okay? If this is going on month after month after month and it's still like this and there's no progress coming, then you have to kind of evaluate whether, by the way, here's the other thing, by the way, ladies, you have amazing intuition and you don't use it, okay? You know the guys who are capable and not. It's really oftentimes your love attachment style that's attached to the wrong guy, but your intuition is screaming 24/7 whether or not he's capable of going up like this. It just sometimes we double down on the wrong person.
Oh, yeah.
If we give more, if we give more, if we give more, I'm like, forget that shit. Cut people off. If you're not dancing, by the way, most happy relationships are dancing at a pretty happy level from day one, believe it or not.
Yeah, totally
I'm giving
agree.
a lot of tips to prepare you for that relationship. If you're in a relationship that's rather weak right now, yes, there are ways to improve it through these. If he cares about you, he's going to want to do this work with you. But the ones who don't want to do the work, I'm not sure how much you want to invest in them.
I'm so glad you said that. I mean, I swear, just responding to comments and stuff lately, like I swear 90% of the time, I'm like, I would drop this guy and move on. I would drop this guy and move on, like copy paste. So I'm really glad you said that. Jessica says, gut feelings are usually right. Kara says, I waited 2 years for him to be at my level. I know the red flags now. Absolutely. Yeah. Who hasn't been there? So this is fantastic. Is there anything?
By the way, I have a little tip for everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So a lot of times women confuse the head and the heart, okay? And they say, my head says I should leave, but my heart says stay. And I'm here to say it's absolutely the opposite. When your heart says leave, when someone says I should leave, that's your heart talking. The head rationalizes through the unhealthy ego all the reasons why you should stay in a bad relationship.
Wow.
The ego is notorious for fucking with you because the ego wants you to choose your heart, and the ego's in competition with your heart. Okay, the unhealthy ego.
Yeah,
your heart. Yeah. That's why I said intuition, ladies. When your head says, when you're thinking, oh, my heart says stay, but my head says goes, it's the other way around. Your heart saying I should go, not your head. Your head is making you stay because it's your unhealthy ego. By the way, this is true of men and women. This isn't singular.
I want to do a whole nother live stream just on that. I have so much to say on all of that. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, where we think, I love what you said. We think, wait, let me see if I can repeat this correctly. I don't know if I can. We think it's our heart saying we think it's our mind saying something's wrong, we should cut this guy off and go. But our heart, we love him, we're so into it. But it's actually the opposite.
No, it's your ego fucking with you.
Exactly.
Your ego's coming up with all these reasons to stay.
So good.
This goes back to actually wounding. And I'm going to give my last book recommendation.
You still have more? I love
Getting the Love You Want by Arvell Hendricks is a great book to understanding why we choose dysfunctional relationships. So I've given, by the way, in my coaching practice, I condense all this. So you don't have to spend, 45,000 hours reading all these books.
I was just going to say that.
And
yes.
And it's very personalized. These books are personalized for coaches like myself and you and all the other fantastic coaches. We personalize everything for you. So we cut through all that the jargon to really laser in on helping you break through to a healthy, happy relationship.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's why you got to go grab your free spot for your 45-minute breakthrough called Totally Free with Jonathon. So I know they're going to fill up quickly. So make sure to say that I sent you to guarantee that you get a spot, because I know they might already be filled up. I'm not sure. So yeah, anything else you want to say on this, or do you want to get to a couple questions? Oh,
Let's
Mike
do some
Goldstein
questions. Let's do
watching.
some questions.
Oh my gosh. Mike Goldstein is the one that introduced us, actually. So glad he's here. I love it. Okay, so some questions. Someone asked a great one about something you were just saying. How can we differentiate gut feelings and mind thoughts?
So this takes practice. In fact, one of the reasons why I wrote my book, What the Heck is Self-Love Anyway, because I talk about intuition, is it takes practice to develop your intuition, your gut. It takes a level of, starting off with meditation on a regular basis. I meditate every day for about 15 minutes. And sometimes it's not just doing Om and zone, and going into quiet. It's mindful meditation with music and some other things. But first, learning to be quiet and still is the first practice, because our intuition operates when we're not in the future and we're not in the past, when we're present, okay? Our present. Now, a great way to check the difference between like fear and intuition is always speaking to you at a calm place. Intuition is speaking calmly, okay? Mm-hmm. Fear is speaking loudly, okay? Like it's coming out. So that gut that's coming out from a loud place, that's actually fear coming from here, because your intuition is always a very quiet, soft answer. This person isn't right for me. It's speaking, but this person seems interesting. I'll lean in more. Like it's always coming from a quiet place. And because our fear can sometimes make it really loud, but you have to really understand that fear sometimes is going to be so loud that it's going to feel like your intuition. Okay. But intuition comes from a soft place, quiet place.
Perfect. Love that answer. I think that's great. I'm just kind of scrolling through and seeing where the questions are. Infinity asked, he stopped talking to me because he liked me a lot, but spending too much time, he thought he needed to slow down. Also, he said he's afraid of having too much attachment. What should I do?
Okay. Here's the interesting thing about dating. So why men lose interest in great women. Sometimes the dating process is so centered around romance and lust and limerence. It's so highly focused in the beginning. And a lot of times relationships aren't building the friendship at the same speed of romance is leading the bus, mm-hmm. and friendship is following way, way back, like a couple, towns over. When you slow the process with less romance and more friendship building, and how do you build friendship? Social activities, hobbies, mutual interests, spending time with family and friends. Obviously, sex and intimacy are part of that. But when you build the friendship aspect of a relationship, then the man's going to feel safer. When he's leading the process, and it's all, by the way, ladies, let's be real. What do guys think about on a first date? What's the one thing we're thinking about? Elena?
Oh, do you want me to answer?
Yeah,
Someone actually said, asked a question to answer your question. Yeah, if they're focused on sex on the first date, right?
So here's the thing. You know this about us. We lead with sex, mm-hmm. okay? I love the saying, men are the gas, women are the brakes.
Yes.
Okay? So understand that if we're really excited about you, what's happening is brain chemicals are being released, dopamine, testosterone, oxytocin, other chemicals, dopamine in particular, says we like you a lot, mm-hmm. okay? Mm-hmm. But we have it a lot of times. Here's what happens: we come on strong, and you get sucked in, and all of a sudden, now the relationship starts, and we haven't emotionally prepared for it because right. we haven't built up the friendship piece. So I'm a big proponent: less romance, more friendship in the early stages of dating.
Love that. I wanted to get to that question now. It's all the way at the bottom. I'll get to it eventually. But someone said, what if he did show up kind of like focus, you could tell that he wanted sex on the first date. Should she totally disqualify him, or is there still long-term potential there? I forgot what was that.
Don't give up the cookie, Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm not using a Steve Harvey. Yeah, I mean, if he's highly focused on sex, mostly a high-quality man, an emotionally mature man. Yes, we want sex, but we don't lead with sex. Anyone who leads with sex hasn't really, I want to say controlled their libido.
Totally
like
agree.
a grown-up doesn't lead with sex. We want sex, but if it's constant sexual innuendos, constant, then just say, hey, dude, you know what, chill out. Like if you don't want to get to know me, that's fine. If you want sex, go back on Tinder.
Oh my gosh, I am loving all your answers to these questions. I didn't know if we would have the same like philosophy on some of this, but we actually totally do, that's so great. Anna Marie says, what can we do to fix our attachment style? Do you have anything? I mean, that's probably a whole nother video, but anything.
Okay. So this sucks what I'm about to say, but I'm an anxious attachment, right?
Right.
My last significant relationship with someone who wasn't. So I literally rewired myself over. It took 6 years.
Wow.
But it was that constant push, pull. And I had to learn this one thing. When I learned this one thing, it made all the difference. Now I had to practice it over and over and over and over and over again. Okay? Do you want to know what this one thing is?
I'm dying to know what it is.
They got to buy my book first. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. In fact, actually, let me get my bracelet here. It's also, what does my bracelet say? Oops.
Well, it's backwards, but I think it might, it's backwards on the screen. So
it says, I'm enough. In other words,
I'm enough. Okay.
When I learned I'm okay, I'm enough. I'm okay, I'm enough. I'm okay, I'm enough. In other words, when they pulled away and I started to say, everything's going to be okay, I'm okay, I'm enough. I literally had to do it over and over and over and over and over again. And then after a while, I started to be less needy. I started to be less anxious. And it's the same with avoidant men. They have to go from, they're down here. They need to creep up like this. You can't get them up here. It's going to be a slow evolution of feeling safe and trust, feeling safety in a relationship. And I know a lot of coaches are selling this, do this one thing and your whole life's going to change. I'm here to say it's incremental.
Yes.
It's baby steps. It's literally everything is a baby step to moving towards more of a secure attachment style, to be more relationship ready, to have relationship IQ, to have nonviolent communication, that sort of thing. So if you're looking for fast results, just remember, you plant a seed in the ground, you have to water it, water, sunlight, then the tiny little sprout, and then it's going to grow over time. Don't expect bamboo that happens like this.
You're so good at this live Q&A. I'm just loving this. I want to do this.
Okay, next Friday we'll do it again.
Great. Yeah. Here's a great question. She says, do we believe what a man says or what he does? I would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, I think Pat Allen says, I don't believe in trust. I believe in trustworthy acts. Okay. So it's going back to actions matching words. Here's the thing. My mother, who was married 66 years, she said, look, I took what your father said with a grain of salt. Everything I took with a grain of salt. I don't know what that actually means, but but in other words, it wasn't sugar coming out of that little container. I expected it's salt. In other words, I waited for the consistent of the actions as the words were being said.
Love that.
An emotionally unhealthy woman will get attached to words very quickly, but that's because they're in a state of emotional unhealthiness. So I'm really a big proponent. Is there another book I have here? Read this book, Getting the Love You Want, because that really helps in really shoring up your own emotional maturity, so you're not dependent upon words for your happiness.
I think that's so great. Such good advice. I've never heard, all the experts I've interviewed, I've never heard anyone say that. And I always get very excited when I hear something I've never heard before. So that was really good. A lot of questions like this, they're with a man. Can they, let's say you're with someone who is they don't have those emotional maturity traits. Can they grow up? Is it possible for someone even in the later stages?
Absolutely. I mean, I'll be candid. I'm a boomer. So, it can happen. It happened to me. I had to want to invest in my own personal
Yeah.
development, self-help, and spiritual work. So one of the things, like when we were talking about childhood wounds, one of the questions I have my clients ask men is, how did you heal from that? Like really ask, how did you heal from a trauma or wound that might have happened in your youth or your adulthood? Like, in
Oh,
other words,
great
a
question.
lot of times, like, or what did you learn from your past relationship? When a guy is pointing a finger at his ex, and it's like his ex did this and his ex did this and ex did this, well, what did you learn from that experience? How did you heal from that experience? Ask grown-up questions.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be afraid to ask grown-up questions. And I'm going to say that a lot of people, they may not, here's the thing. If he really cares about you, he's going to be willing to read all these books I recommend or do it together. I'm a big proponent that your relationship, there's the you, there's the me, and then there's the we, okay? In a heart shape, a we, okay? The we is a separate entity. If you want this penis in my vagina, then you're going to want to do this work together. I'm sorry to be so graphic, but I'm like, I just want to say, if you want to spend time with me, then let's develop a really awesome relationship that everyone else is going to be envious of. But if you're looking for a transactional relationship, I got one other book. Esther, I just got this book yesterday called Mating in Captivity.
Oh, yes. I've heard that's a great one. Yeah.
She talks about what's called social ambiguity. In other words, today, a lot of people are doing the bare minimum to be in a relationship, the least amount of work. And I'm here to say, when you set your standards of like, hey, if you want to climb to the tallest tower, you know what? Then this is what we got to do together, because you're going to get a prize from this. You're going to get an awesome girlfriend from this. I want an awesome boyfriend. Let's co-create an awesome relationship together.
Love it. I think that's great. I know everyone in my audience really appreciates the bluntness. I learned that after my last live stream. JP says, any tips on this subject for someone in a long distance relationship? I don't know. Do you have anything to say about long distance? That's not.
Yeah, I just shot it. You can go to my YouTube channel. I just literally did a video on how to make a long distance relationship work. But here's the bottom line. Well, by the way, as of today, long distance is 6 feet.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. In other words, we're in social distancing. So 6 feet's a long distance relationship, all joking aside. Here's the bottom line to make a long distance relationship work. Within the first 92 days, if there isn't a plan of how you're going to take this long distance and create a relationship where you're going to blend lives together, if there isn't a plan, an actual plan, then I wouldn't invest any time in a long distance relationship if there isn't a mutual plan. In other words, you're actually planning on this. Now, a lot of people are reluctant. I said 3 months. That scares some of the women. Some people are watching this going, 3 months? I barely know the person. Mm-hmm. But you don't want to spend 3 years getting to know someone.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. I'm a little pissed at people. You know what? I'm frustrated, right? Because I care so much. I mean, really, I'm incredibly passionate about this. Investing in getting to know another human being is a commitment in and of itself. It's a commitment to say, I want to get to know you. I want to maybe explore something deeper with you. And I'm willing to read, I'm pointing at all these books. I'm right here. I'm willing to do this work because I'm committed to wanting to make a relationship work. And a high quality guy or emotionally grown up man is willing to do the work. But I want to encourage women to do the work too.
Mm-hmm. Love it. Oh my gosh. I just love everything you're saying. So good. Ariana asks, can you explain the thing about the ring again? I got a couple questions.
So I have a friend who wrote a book called Ring Shui, like Feng Shui. Yeah. And she told me, if you wear, like, this is the marriage ring here, but if you wear a ring on this, it's actually calling in your soulmate or something like that. So I bought this ring, and actually I bought a ring 10 years ago and met a girl 3 months later, and we were in a 6-year relationship.
Oh, amazing.
By the way, for those ladies that might be curious, I'm going to share something very personal and intimate here, because I get this question asked a lot. Jonathan, why are you single? I was in a significant relationship that ended a few years ago. And shortly after that relationship ended, I lost my mother to cancer. And then 6 months later, I lost my 19-year-old son to an accident. So that was a year and a half ago. So I've been grieving, and I've been just barely dating in the last 2 years. I'm just now putting myself out there again in a more healthy way. Writing this book was inspired by the loss of my 19-year-old son. And him passing away caused me to lean more deeply into love than ever before. I really study love on a much greater level here. And that's why everything I'm sharing with you is all coming from, it's not coming from love from me, but everything I'm sharing is coming from a place of love. In fact, my podcast is called What Would Love Do? And that was birthed by this. So for those that are curious why I'm single, it's just, I've been going through a lot these last 2 years.
Yeah, I know. Oh my gosh. Well, everyone's loving you. Trish says this live stream's great. Jonathan's definitely smart.
With my glasses on or off.
Yeah, exactly right. Here's a great question. Thank you for sharing that, by the way. And I know we're way over on time, but everyone's loving this. We have almost 300 people watching, which is huge for this time of day, especially. So CG asks, what's the difference between standards and expectations when it comes to a relationship? Do you make a distinction there?
Yeah, well, so I like what a friend of mine says. He goes, expectations are the mother of disaster and desperation is her twin sister. So so going back to, I'll give you a perfect example. When I'm in a relationship, I said this before about sex, right? You said, when I'm intimate with a man, I prefer to be monogamous and exclusive. How do you operate? Okay. That's setting your standard. When you tell a man, I expect commitment before you get sex with me, that's an expectation. A standard is saying, this is where I'm at, and then you're telling a person where you're at. Okay. You're not telling them they either choose to meet you there or not. That's a standard. When you make it an expectation, you're telling them, I need you to be this way for this to work. That's an expectation. I hope that makes sense.
Love it. I think that's great. Yeah. Goes back to your advice, be willing to walk away at any time.
By the way, here's an example. So I'm going to use an example of spending weekends together. I'm really, to me, if your boyfriend and girlfriend, your weekends are meant to be with your boyfriend and girlfriend. You shouldn't ever have to second guess it. Okay.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
When I hear I'm not sure we're spending the weekend together, to me, that's like the first equation in geometry. It's a given, so you say, when I'm in a relationship, I want I reserve my weekends for my partner. How do you operate? And if they do backpedaling, well, that tells you how they operate. So again, expectation is telling them you spend weekends. Standard is, this is where I'm at. Do you want to meet me there or not?
I like that. I love what you said too. Weekends are spent with your partner. That's just a given. I've never heard anyone say that before too. So this is, I think this is the last question I saw from Kara. How do you determine the difference from a man that is breadcrumbing you and a man that is slow to warm up? I get questions like this all the time. I don't know about you.
If you're even thinking he's breadcrumbing, he is. Going back to your intuition.
Wow, love it.
I think the minute your intuition is speaking, oftentimes when you have that little spidey sense. Okay. Now, you have to recognize, remember I said the first step is understanding. So first get a sense of who the guy you're with. Remember I said, when I go through my coaching program and I do my Improve Your GPS, we're going to determine very quickly if he's an avoidant personality or an anxious personality. We're going to be able to figure that real quick, when we work together, for those that are interested in doing that. But for those that may not work with a coach like myself or others, or the great team that you have in your YouTube videos, you have amazing bench. Like if this
I know. I don't know how
the best bench on the planet. Okay?
I know. I'm like, how do I just attract the most amazing experts? And I'm
just grateful to be part of the team.
I know. Now. I'm like, I don't even do anything. It's amazing. I don't know how I got so lucky. I don't know.
I will tell you that one of the benefits of working with a coach is we really help you hone your intuition. Your intuition is going to be firing on all cylinders. You're going to be able to tell if it's breadcrumbing or breadcrumbing.
Breadcrumbing.
Crumbing.
Yeah.
I said crumbing. Can you believe that? Oh, see where my brain's at.
I can believe
it. God, I'm already tongue-tied. But when your intuition is firing, you're going to know the difference.
Yeah. Love it. Patricia says she loves Brene Brown. Everyone's saying that they love Brene Brown. Love this topic. Love learning about the love languages. My love languages get awesome. Here's a great question. I'll just have this be the last one because we're coming up to an hour and a half, which is way longer than we said we were going to do. But she says, my boyfriend is an avoidant attachment style. Lately, he's been getting annoyed by me. He's been pushing me away. How do I tell him it's not okay? When is it time to let it go?
How do I tell him it's not okay? You tell them it's not okay.
Yeah, it's one of those.
Go back to Brene Brown. It's just saying, okay, so you simply say, we'll make up the guy's name, Tim, and I'm going to do a Clip Note version of this. And again, buy the book, Nonviolent Communication, to help you with this. But Tim, I'm feeling really sad and I'm feeling disconnected between us. I'm getting a sense that you're pulling away from this relationship. And this is what I'm feeling. And I'm just checking in with you to see where you're at with respect to this relationship. You're giving them a chance to respond, and again, in a non-confrontational way.
I think that's great.
But you express your feelings. Remember I showed the list of feelings? Everybody, go on Google, type list of feelings, okay? Because when you learn what you're feeling, you're going to be able to better express what you're feeling by actually learning what it is you're feeling. When I say learning, describing is what I mean. By being able to identify what you're feeling, it's going to be much easier to describe it. A lot of times it's coming from the head and it's not coming from the heart. So identify what it is you're feeling before you're going to express it.
Love it. I knew I said that was the last one, but this great question came through. We'll just end on this one. Christy says, how do you deal with a man who's receptive to spiritual or emotional growth, but is still avoidant and needs help? Do we just let it be?
Well, first off, I've been going back to patience. So, I would depend on how long. If someone's interested in personal development, whether it's personal development, self-help, spiritual work, therapy, that sort of thing, I think that's great. They're moving towards emotional maturity. My question about the avoidant is try to recognize sometimes that feeling is that gap is maybe because you're too high here. So part of that, remember I said, is coming down a little bit too, for him to rise up a little bit. So maybe expectations might be high, and that's why it might seem avoidant. If someone is absolutely devoid of sharing their feelings, it's going to be a problematic relationship. If they're absolutely just incapable of it, you may want to say, hey, go on your journey, go on your hero's journey. Alison Armstrong calls it the tunnel. Sometimes a man has to go through his own tunnel. That's like what I've been going through the last 2 years for me. I've been going through my tunnel so I can come out the other end. And it's not good to be in relationship with people when they're in the tunnel. Not to say you can't be, but it can be challenging, to say the least.
I totally agree. Oh my gosh. Yes. Zaria says that's a great question. Christy, you guys are so sweet. Everyone's just loving this. Nadia says that, yes, I just wanted a man's perspective. Speaking of that, if you want to get the male perspective on whatever issue you're facing right now, make sure to click the link in the description, the very first link. It's also down below in the comments. Sign up for your free 45-minute breakthrough call with Jonathon. I can't believe how generous you're being with my community, Jonathon. I'm so happy to be able to share you with them. And yeah, anything you want to say about that before we close out?
Well, I'm just grateful for an opportunity to be on your YouTube channel. I've been working on building my YouTube channel. I have a tiny little YouTube channel. So I'm grateful because you have I'm grateful of you because you have such great people on here. I'm just happy to be part of, like I said, your bench, your team.
I love that. Look, Trish just said Jonathon is another gem in this coaching family. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you. And you are a sweetheart. I mean, by the way, ladies, I'm in love with Helena. She was single. Fantastic.
Oh my gosh. Well, everyone's loving you too. Really awesome guest and talk. Everyone's thank you so much. Thank you for giving us time to learn. Val says this is great advice. There's just so many, it just goes on and on. I know we're like way over on time. So thank you so much. Is there any last words of wisdom you want to say? Nadia says she wants you to come back soon. Yeah. Let us know if you're watching the replay of this. Yeah. What would you like us to cover? Because I would love to bring you back on, Jonathon. So for everyone watching, want to do some of the topics we've talked about? Is there something totally different?
Oh my God. I mean, we could do this every week and I would be stoked.
So fun, right?
One of the things I want to encourage everyone, and I wrote a book about self-love, which a lot of times self-love can be a turnoff. Okay, the term self-love. So I just want to lean into self-worth, self-esteem, self-confidence. Loving on yourself is not selfish. Loving on yourself is not narcissistic. Loving on yourself is saying, I care about me and I care about others. A lot of times women give too much to others and not enough to themselves. So obviously watching this, you're doing for yourself. And I encourage you, to just learn to love on yourself as much as you can. Because look, it's not easy to love ourselves. In fact, it can be the hardest thing because we can attack ourselves here. Our ego can be very vicious at attacking ourselves as I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable, I'm not worthy. And the antidote, in fact, the vaccine, I'm going to talk about vaccine right now, to emotional chaos is self-love. The vaccine to emotional chaos is self-love. When you invest in your self-love, when you lean into emotional maturity, when you lean into all this content that I shared, you're going to be like a magnetic attractor for what you want.
Yeah, so true. So true. Of the comments, I mean, I could just sit here and read comments and have you answer questions all day. This was so much fun. Thank you so much. I know we just want to keep it to an hour and we're already an hour and a half. We'll definitely do this again soon. Thank you guys so much. There are all 300 people staying all the way till the end.
Wow, that's so cool.
I know. So let us know what topics you'd like us to do for future live streams.
Yeah.
I'd love to do this again or all the time. This was great.
I think I want to do male insecurities. How about that?
Yeah, that would be a good one. Or what do you guys think? Let us know. Carolyn says, so a lot of questions about self-love. We could do one.
Okay, we can do it on my book.
Yeah, Carolyn says next time do 2 hours. This is self-love. Thank you. This is great. Someone just said, Jonathan, I can't wait to read your book. Please come back soon. Everyone's just loving everything you said. I've learned so much. Looking forward to the next one. This is amazing. You guys are so sweet. I'll just close out here because male insecurities, everyone's wanting to. Okay, we'll do the next one on male insecurities. All right, we love you guys. Have a great weekend. Jonathan, thank you so much again. For everyone watching, make sure to sign up for your free call. Make sure to let him know that I sent you because I know these are going to fill up so fast. They might already be gone. So just keep checking back. If your schedule fills up, maybe just keep checking back in the coming weeks because
I'll keep it open for a couple weeks. So.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so we love you guys. Thank you, Jonathan, so much. We will definitely do this again soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, sweetheart. Give you a big hug.
I know, right?
Hug.
Bye, everybody.